it's not just your sweat and how you smell that way. It's literally every breath you breathe out, that you are breathing out the neurotransmitters and hormones that are in your body and brain for that moment that create your thought. Because in neurobiology, you study and you look at it and you say, okay, well, the synaptic gap between each one of the dendrites and neurons that fire a signal across, how does that fire that signal to make that thought to that particular line of neurons through the brain here to have that thought? It's because of the neurotransmitters and hormones that fill that gap, that soup of inhibitors, modulators, et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
Hold up.
That,
You're
yeah.
saying you're saying dogs can smell my thoughts.
Yes, because they have the exact same neurotransmitters and hormones. So they know how you feel and what you're thinking because they smell it in themselves too. So when you walk in with a presupposition of upset or anything else, and that first breath out, that dog's picking up all of that and knows how you feel. That's why I'm happy for dogs. I'm happy to see them. I love working with them. I trust them.
Ah, that's right. Today on the podcast, a very special episode and interview with my friend and mentor, Mr. Nelson Hodges. This is part one of the interview that I had with him. I know that you are going to enjoy every moment of this. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Ready to have a calm and peaceful life with your dog without the stress of those fear-based behaviors? Hi, I'm Tracy, and I've been there, overwhelmed by all the conflicting dog training advice and unsure of what to do next. But now I help dog lovers like you simplify your life with your dog by building confidence naturally, fostering trust, and addressing those fear-based challenges. So, if you're ready, stop chopping those chicken wieners and let's get to it. Okay. I'm very, very excited today. This episode, I will say, is incredibly special to me personally because I have the absolute privilege of sitting down with someone who has been almost a guiding light. He's definitely been my mentor in this journey, not just for dogs, but honestly, how I lead and live and love and teach my dogs. So if you've been around my work for even a hot minute, I know you've heard me quote him. His wisdom has shaped the way that I see dogs, the way I show up, and the way I help others do the same. And I will say from the first time I took his 3-day RBBM course in Bethany, Ontario, back in, oh my gosh, 2016. So it's almost been 10 years.
Almost, yeah.
The moment that I sat down and heard him talk, I knew that my life would be changed. I've often said that Nelson gave me permission to be uniquely and honestly me. And I quite often don't think that he fully knows how much he changed my life. Little side note, I wrote a book. I I credited Nelson for it, and then I didn't even tell Nelson that I put him in there.
I
So
just found out.
so I was like, that's how shy I was about the whole thing. So Nelson has just been everything to me. But here I have to say a little bit about Nelson's background. He is the founder and senior instructor at the Canine Human Relationship Institute in Blue Ridge, Texas, with over 50 years of experience in canine behavior, rehabilitation, detection work, including search and rescue, HRD, and explosives. He brings unmatched depth to the field. He has created the relationship-based training and behavior modification model and holds numerous credentials, including, here we go, I take a breath, IACP, CDT, CDTA, PDTI, CIS, CRBT, and CCB. And in 2023, he was inducted into the IACP Hall of Fame for his lifetime contribution to dogs and the people who love him. So today I am honored to welcome the man, the legend, I should have said the man, the myth, the legend, who not only, he doesn't teach dogs, but rather teaches humans to actually reach dogs. Please welcome my mentor and friend, Nelson Hodges.
Gee, that's not much to live up to. Thank you. I'm honored and embarrassed somewhat.
You know what? And he had to know I was going to do that. Nelson
Yeah.
has to know that I'm going to do that. I had the opportunity to speak once at the ICP, and I embarrassed him there too. I brought him up in that conversation as well. So, Nelson, thank you so much. As I mentioned before, we clicked record to this. This is you are my very first guest on the
Oh,
podcast. And
okay.
I am so happy that you're here. I thought it was just you were the only person I could have as the first guest, because of everything that I have done. I think everything that I talk about now has been shaped in some way, by the work that I've done with you. My audience has heard the story of Jace from my 9-day experience. Um,
You're
and the
welcome.
lessons.
Yeah,
And
Huskies.
I want to just before we get into, I'll let you speak. Honestly, it's not just me talking about Nelson. I swear. But I wanted to ask you this question between you and me, and of course the audience now. When we were at that 9-day, and we were given these crazy, crazy huskies with just a leash and a collar, and we were told no crates. We had to live with these dogs 24/7, and really learn how to like exist with a dog. And we kept on saying to you, Nelson, these dogs are pulling us off our feet. We're getting yanked all over the place. And we're like, are you going to teach us how to walk them properly without the equipment? Like, are you going to? And he would say, oh, yeah, yeah, no, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. And he kept doing that day after day. And I all of a sudden realized when I got home, he did that on purpose because by the time we got to the walking part, the dogs were magically better anyway. And I was
Yeah,
like, that was his whole plan.
you
I
think?
swear. Like I turned to Karen and I was like, he he did that on purpose. Like every day we would come in and we'd
Yeah.
be like, oh, my arms are sore. And he'd be like, no, 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 it's fine. Just keep on going out. And we would do all the exercises and do all this stuff. And we're getting the dogs to do stuff. And then before you knew it, when we got to the part of the dogs walking with us, I was like, oh, this dog's already walking with me. And I'm like, I think that was the point. Was that the
Yes,
point, Nelson?
of course it was. When you reach the dog, look, my uh, we're going to do some of my sayings. I guess that's
Yeah.
your plan. But
Yeah.
and I try to. There's hundreds of them out there over the years because I try to make it very succinct and poignant to point things out. I'd rather reach a dog than to teach a dog because if I can reach that dog, it will do anything I ask of it because we're partners and we're communicating and we're cooperating. I don't have to coerce them. I don't have to use force. It's agreement or disagreement, and it's very soft because they care, because you matter, because you're relevant to the dog,
Mhm.
not because you say so, but because you actually are. You're a partner in survival and enjoyment of life. That's the point. And yeah,
Because we were all
it,
trainers. Like we were all trainers coming in and being like, we're going to train the dogs. And then we were
no, the
like,
dogs were there to train you.
yes, 100%. It was the most humbling experience that I've ever had. I will say the very first night, I remember Jace was like just mouthy and jumpy and we had nothing, like we had no training tools. We couldn't put him in a crate and be like, we're just gonna ignore you. And I remember Karen standing behind me and she was like, do you want a glass of wine? And I started to cry because I was like, I don't even think I could drink a glass of wine right now. And my husband called me because I was so excited to do this. My husband called me and he was like, how's it going? And I'm faking it like, oh, it's great, honey. Meanwhile, I'm like, this is the worst experience ever. And why would he put me through this? Like, oh, there were words that we said about you. Like
I'm sure.
it
Yeah,
was
I've heard them all. Yes, I'm sure.
And here
Yeah.
we were just like, this is awful. And just like, and I'm like, I can't believe that we have to. Then it was day one. I'm like, I won't make it. Like, I'm not gonna make it. Like, this isn't. And we
So
would
so
come in every day.
you have to get past yourself. That's the thing. And humans don't have respect for other living things. That's the problem. Yeah, they love their dog, but they don't know what a dog is. And that's the problem with most trainers too. They can train a dog, but they don't know what a dog is. And that's what I try to teach. Not just the neurobiology and the biology and the morphology and all of that stuff, but really, what is a dog? And how does it think? You got to look inside the brain because you're working from your brain to another brain. And if you use anything to control a dog physically, you're not reaching it mentally.
Mhm,
Period.
mhm.
Period. I will emphasize that and I will go to my death for that. Okay. So it's about reaching that dog the way the dogs understand it. So the dogs are always there to teach the trainers, not the other way around. You know, and that's the point. And other people. Over the years, actually a lot of people, it used to be about maybe 60-40 back when I was just teaching course one, which is what I call the RBBM thing. And I taught that for I don't know how many years. Uh, in the form that you had, probably about 15 years ago was when I started teaching it that way. And uh, that that form was to just introduce basic concepts to people to go, you don't know the history, you don't know the morphology, you don't understand their language, you don't understand how to communicate with a dog, you just know how to force it to do something. And so it was really getting people to be responsible and obligated to understand things for a living sentient being, something that has its own thoughts and it's right for itself. They've survived longer than humans have, canines have, 31 million years. And so that's, you know, they didn't need us. We certainly needed them to survive better because, we're not that fast. We don't have big fangs and, we can't smell the elk herd over the mountain.
It's
So,
amazing we got as far as we have.
well, we matched up with them about 40,000 years ago. And that's why when you look at the human population through time worldwide, about 40,000 years ago, once dogs kind of spread throughout as a good idea with humans, as humans bumped into other humans and saw they had proto dogs that helped them hunt and survive better, then it spread across the world. And, by 20,000 years ago, guess what? Our population started going up. That's because we had help. So we
Man,
would still be just a few million humans if we had not had a partner. Basically, we're a co-species, literally. And I've put forth that aspect for decades now, and finally, many other people are ethologists and others are seeing that as we are a co-species with dogs. Matter of fact, we share more than 300 diseases with dogs and vice versa, which is the only animal on earth that does. That's the first animal that we call domesticated. They domesticated us, actually. They showed us territory, they showed us lots of things. So, but we take credit for it because humans are such egocentric, you know,
sons of guns.
entities. Yeah, yeah. So
Sons of guns.
anyway, how do I get off on that? I always get off on
I
that. Sorry.
will say, sort of getting back to your, if you had to physically do the dog, you didn't reach them mentally. I don't know if you remember this, but there was one point when we were standing by the cars, and was holding on to Jace, and I needed to take a break because he was Jace, and we were talking, and Jace jumped up on the car, and my immediate response was to pull him down because it was a rental, and you turned to me and you were like, You could have asked him to get down. And I was like, but it's a rental. And you're like, Jace didn't know that. And I was like, and then that night I was like, okay, Jace got in. He was like really like he was really saucy. And he got up on my bed. And so I was like, wait, I went to get like pull him down. I'm like, no, no. Nelson said I should ask him down. So I put my hand up and I was like, you want to get down? And he grabbed my hand. And then I was like, and then he got down and then he rubbed his scent in my drawer and then he rubbed his scent on my pillows. And I was like, I don't like this game.
It's not a game.
Like this game. And Nelson, you're like, why did I sign up for this? I was
Uh,
I was like, yeah, Nelson, sure. I can just ask the dog off, right? Like
yeah,
I
but ask until you get the right answer.
ask till you get
And
the right answer.
and that's not about saying the same thing over and over again the same way, slower and louder like we do when we're speaking in a different country that doesn't understand English, you know.
Yes, yes. And that's what we all do.
That's what humans do.
That's what we all
It's actually incumbent upon us to figure out how to reach that particular dog with its personality, temperament, and the way it understands things.
yeah.
So, that then you're learning how to communicate. And that's the most effective and fastest way to actually reach a dog and make it a partner instead of conflict.
Yeah. Well, I will say your course is brilliant. It's a ride, because I don't want to spoiler alert the end of the course. Like, I don't want to spoil it like a movie spoiler or whatnot. But
Yeah.
at the end of it, I had a dog that followed me everywhere, laid down by my feet. Like, we had such brilliant moments together, this dog and I. I've told the story about the one night going out for the walk, and the fire department was beside the hotel,
Mm.
and the alarms went off, and Jason and I sat on the wall and watched the firemen get ready to go, and they took off, and then it was almost like the two of us were like, "Well, that was interesting." I'm like, "You want to go?" And he was like, "Yeah." And we got down off the wall, and I mean, it was honestly magical,
Yeah.
and in 9 days.
Yeah.
And then you were a horrible human being and you told me I had to give him back. And
Oh, you could have taken him home if you wanted,
I
but
had to get on a plane. I cried
yeah.
all the way home. That's how that story ended. All right, spoiler alert. That
That's how many people leave. They have to give the dog back. Some don't. Some
I
take
was
them
like,
home.
okay. It was magical. So I mean, it was a brilliant. It was a roller coaster. It was a brilliant. I highly recommend. Well, Nelson has a lot of amazing courses, and we'll talk about that at the end. But um, if you want to go on a journey, that one's it. That one's it. All right. So, everyone who's listened to this podcast has heard me probably quote numerous of the what we call Nelsonisms, and I will
What
say
you call it, I don't.
I call it and I think after my class I started the whole like putting posters up of pictures with Nelsonisms,
Yes, you did.
spreading it all over the place, and I'm quite proud of that. So I wanted to today actually go over some of the Nelsonisms, some of the favorite ones. I think there's one that really stuck out for me, one that helped me tremendously. I'm going to save that one because I think one of the most famous, popular ones from Nelson is the if you want to learn how to talk to your dog,
Shut your mouth
shut.
because it requires you to not use human words. Monkey chatter is what I call it because that's all it is to a dog. And then figure out actually it forces you to be calm, not cause upset by your noise constantly. And it allows the dog to actually read you and you to read the dog instead of you relying on what is frankly only 7% of our own communications between humans. That's
Yeah,
all it is. 55% is your face. That's why there's so much problem on social media and platforms like that People can't see someone else's actual intent because they
Mhm.
can't see their face, their body language, etc. All they do is read their words on their own terms
Right.
and get upset. So, with dogs, they don't have parts of the brain that can form words. They can't talk, unlike all the husky memes that you see, saying "I love you,"
I love
that
you,
sort of thing. Yeah,
mama.
the mimicking of sound is not a word, and they don't think in terms of words. So they can't. That's not how they do it. They can discern over 500 different sounds that you make, but sound to them is a precursor. It's what we call a warning order. The sound is, hey, look at me. This is what I mean. And you're looking at their body and their intent and what's in their brain. That's how they communicate, not the sound itself. So for you to monkey chatter constantly, which is what we do all day long to each other, and into a little plastic thing we call a phone,
Yes.
which makes no sense to the dog, or watch something, this big screen thing, and hear monkey chatter on it all the time. And the dogs have had it. I mean, if I had to live in that kind of cacophony of sound constantly from some other alien being, when am I supposed to pick out that sound that's meant for me?
That's a
So,
good point.
we had years ago, I think probably 10, no, 15, 20 years ago, I was teaching a class, and I had a rather loquacious female in class that was constantly talking. And so I challenged her between day 2 and day 3 of class to go home, and she was at, I was in that location, so she could go home at night and simply not say a word. I gave her 24 hours to not say a word to their dogs. And she came back and the next day and said, "It was amazing how calm my dogs were." I'm thinking, "Yeah, think so?" So, that challenge of, 24 hours, don't talk around your dogs, and you will see a change, because now you have to focus on how to communicate without our monkey chatter, which makes no sound, no sense to them. The way, look, dogs use sound in two ways. Okay, this is where all this comes from, guys. It's all connected. So the major elements that dogs use sound for is to call the pack, woof, yip, bark, all those things, to go, hey, there's something here, or the buff, buff, buff. That's to get everybody else to come look to see what it is the concern is. It's either an exciter, it's a potential threat, it is a threat, it's territorial incursion, it's whatever it is, but come reinforce me, come see, and let's do this together, because dogs are social animals,
Mhm.
and that includes you. You're part of that social unit, or you're not. Instead of yelling at your dog to shut up, go see what it is they're doing. Hey, what is it? Okay, no, it's okay, buddy. Come on, let's go. And it's over. All they're asking is for you to come look. That's the half of what they do, and using, they're calling the pack. And so you go check it out and you go, nope, nothing to worry about. Guess what? They don't bark at that thing anymore. And after doing that calmly and composed, out the window, next door to the fence, whatever, 5, 6, 7 times, they get the general associative aspect of, okay, these things are not a problem, so I won't bark at those anymore. Unless, of course, your dog is bored to tears and just needs something to do. The other part of what they use verbal for is to say, look at me, I really mean this. So the whines, the yips, the howls, the all of these other things, the growls, the low growls, all that stuff is to get your attention to look at them. That's what they communicate with, is their body.
Mhm.
So if you're using sound all the time, you're confusing the dog. And after a short time of confusion, then they just ignore you. So you're not relevant anymore. And the whole point about relationship is you being relevant to the dog, not the other way around. Has nothing to do with you love your dog.
Yeah.
So you have to be relevant to your dog for them to trust you. Otherwise, there's no trust. Yeah, they'll put up with you, and humans negotiate away about 95% of what's important to a dog because it's unimportant to us.
Mhm.
So, and we only want to encounter our dogs when we want to, not look, dogs look at things in terms of pure survival. Humans look at survival as what color of shoes do I wear today?
Yeah.
That's our survival because
Yeah.
we control all of our environment. We've built our environment. We don't have bears attacking us anymore. We don't have lions and tigers killing us. We don't have to worry about anything because we've eliminated everything that's, potential threat to us except ourselves. And we're still trying to do that.
Yeah.
So so our universe, our environment that we've built, we know all the sounds, we know all the things, we know everything, so we ignore it entirely. And what's the most, our prefrontal cortex in our brain is has past 15, 20,000 years has been developed for social stuff, for culture. That's what we think, and that's the majority of what's in our head. That's how we think about being accepted and surviving. That's our survival anymore. It's not about how am I going to find something to eat today and how am I not going to get killed today. We don't think about that in terms of that, but dogs still do. That's the way they think. So you're irrelevant in their survival most of the time. And dog can't trust you for anything except maybe feeding you somewhere around the time that you normally do and going to bed.
Yeah.
And that's the point of it. So the point of all those sayings are to get people to think in a different way about what a dog is, because a dog is not a human. It's not.
As much as
And
we want to make them furry little people, they're not.
yeah, no, they're not. And I respect them more for what they are, frankly,
Yeah.
because they're real. And
Yeah.
humans are too much in their own head. And the dogs that, dogs I used to work with for, however many decades, uh, I was the guy that took on the dogs that nobody else would, could, or wanted to. And those were the severe case behaviors. The ones that wanted to kill me, kill other dogs, had um, many times. Um, the ones that were beyond terror just didn't want to exist. And if you moved, from 100 feet away, if you lifted a finger, they'd expect you to just kill them in that moment. And those were the dogs that I learned from. And that's a horrible position to be in for them, but they have already made up their mind that they're going to die.
Right.
They're in survival mode and they're in their own head. So I had to teach them, I had to show them what reality was outside of their head. So but besides my background in human psychology and psychological operations, that's what I did with dogs. I had to show them reality. That's what I have to do with trainers and others is show them reality, because you always have the story in your head.
Yeah.
So the course two that you described, that's what you have to do. You have to go through the crucible to come out the other side, don't you?
It was something.
Yeah.
There were names that were called in your direction. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yes.
They're just
That's the whole point. You
yeah.
have to go
There
through that.
was there was many names being called. I will tell you just as a fun little story. The and I videoed it because I thought I was being like really really good, but my little Jack Russell was at this window behind
Mm.
me. She was she was like huffing and puffing, and I was like, "What's going on?" So I went over and I'm sitting on the floor with her. I'm like, "What are we looking at? What's going on?" And I'm like, "I don't think there's anything there, buddy." And lo and behold, she goes and she gets another dog. Like
Hmm.
she brings another dog, and I'm like, "Hey," and I actually was like, "That's insulting. You don't trust me? Like, what are you doing?" So then I've got 2 dogs now, and then they
Need
go
a
get another dog.
second opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, they go get another dog. So now I got 3 dogs, and I'm like, "What are you all talking about?" And I'm like, I'm opening the door, like, "You fine, if you all think there's something there." I opened the door, and lo and behold, one of my horses had gotten out and was standing in my backyard.
Uh,
And I went out and went, "Oh, son of a bitch, she was right." Like, you know, like, 'cause she was
yeah.
around the corner,
Believe
so
your
I didn't
dog.
see it.
Yeah.
And I posted that video and went, "Believe the dog." Like,
Yeah.
now I believe her, like, I don't, because I mean,
Yeah.
she was the youngest, she was the pup. I'm like, "She doesn't know." But
Yeah.
I laughed because she went and got other dogs. Like, she was like, "This human ain't getting it. I gotta
I love
I gotta
it.
get some other
Ah.
reinforcements." And then those dogs didn't leave, and I'm like, "Are we all nuts? Here." And then, like, yeah. And then I had to do the whole, like, "Don't chase the horse. Come back."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's
I'll get the
hilarious.
horse. Thank you." So I was like, here I was thinking I was doing it. And
We're
yeah,
working with dogs for, about 50 years by that time. I, when I was developing Bosch, raising him and developing him, from 5.5 weeks of age into a service animal. And
Bosch's story is incredible. When is that story coming out, sir?
I'm I'm I am writing the story. There's no
Okay.
guarantee on when it will be done. It took let's see, the
Yeah.
last book I was involved in took 4 years.
I want that book, Nelson. I want this one done.
I promise I will finish it. I'll try to finish it before I die. I have no idea when I'm going to die, obviously. So,
Okay. Anyway,
but
I'm going to get this audience on you as well. I want you all to know the story. Like, Bosch, every time he speaks of Bosch, my heart is just like, I'm so in awe with this dog. So, anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just
okay,
putting it out there that I want this book. Go on.
he's uh, he's he's pretty amazing. He's world famous, obviously, in the trainer world because
Hmm.
he's very unique, highly intelligent, probably the second most intelligent and sensitive dog, situationally aware, is most situationally aware dog of any I've ever seen, and many other trainers too. But uh, he's, yeah, second most intelligent. Unfortunately, I also have the first most intelligent dog, which is Toffee, and she was described to me as a pup as scary smart, and that interested me, and she is still scary smart.
Okay.
She just blows me away. But Bosch, when he was about 2.5, I had gone to teach at actually at Angela Luke's place in outside of Washington D.C. at that point, and of course Bosch was with me the whole time, and he was acting very odd on the trip the first night that we had to, it's a long drive. Anyway, he was about 2.5 years old at that point, and of course my mind was, I'm taking care of him, I'm training him, I'm teaching him all this stuff. It's I'm in I, it's my responsibility, and he's still this thing I'm forming or helping to form. He's obviously his own dog too, and must be as a service animal. He needs to be able he needs to be able to say no to me. Well, up to that point he hadn't, but that first night he was acting very odd, and actually the whole trip once we started, and then that night he would not settle. And I was thinking, my gosh, does he have bloat or something? Did his stomach turn? So I'm, feeling underneath to make sure he's okay and all that. About 1 a.m., we're not sleeping. He
Mm.
had jumped into bed. He's not allowed, none of my dogs are ever allowed up on anything. He jumped into my bed, and that shocked me because it's the first time ever trying to get my attention. I'm going, okay, what's wrong with you, buddy? So I I looked up and I called fortunately it was a city large enough that they had a 24/7 emergency vet place. So I called them up, told them what was going on, said, you know, I'm not sure what's going on. It's a rapid onset. I may, it may be bloat. I keep checking them, and et cetera, et cetera. And so they said, okay. I said, if I come in, I will call you immediately, and I'm maybe 10 minutes away from you. Uh, you know what's going on. Take him in, and let's do what we need to do immediately, because there's no time. Bloat, you're dead in 30 minutes. So
I've lost a dog to bloat.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Um, so um, about 3 a.m. Um, he finally he jumped on the bed again, and he was laying next to me, and I kind of turned over on my side, and he settled down. So I just let him be there, and I went to sleep pretty rapidly, and then I woke up again about 4 o'clock, and he was back down on the floor. So I thought, okay, he's fine. I checked his breathing and all that stuff. Well, of course, got up early so I could make another 16-hour drive, and he's really doing his weird behavior again. I'm thinking, well, maybe it's just the stress of this particular trip. So I got up. I don't know. I'm starting to feel kind of weird. That afternoon, uh, Laura, who is she was a dental hygienist and tech for years before being a trainer, and she said, have you had any, what's going on with you?" Because she started noticing I wasn't really feeling good, and said she said, "Have you had any dental work?" I said, "Well, no, I was supposed to, because I had this feel like an infection." She goes, "Oh." And sure enough, that night it kept I was going downhill quick, and fortunately, Angela and her husband had a Z pack that they just said, "Here, take it." It's the first time in my life I've ever missed the beginning of teaching a class that next day. I think I stayed in bed till about 9:30 or 10, and fortunately, yeah. So Bosch, that was his first time of it changed my whole understanding of him at that point, and the respect for him. He was an equal partner to me from that point on.
Yeah.
I mean, literally equal. He was just such a unique. He was a unicorn,
Yeah.
and he's given me stuff I didn't know he was capable of. And that's the key, is you have to not have this thing of slotting them into just what you want. That's the whole
Right.
point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry for the long
Because then you won't see
story.
it, right? Because then you
You
won't
won't see
see.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see what you don't focus on, and you get what you focus on. And if you focus on what the dog really is and is telling you, guess what? You can have more than you could ever imagine,
A whole world
relationship
opens up.
wise. Yep.
Yeah, a whole world.
So,
Ugh, I love that. All right. Um, Here's one for you.
okay.
Okay. Control yourself and influence the dog. Don't try to control the dog.
Now that's accurate. Yeah.
Let's
That's
speak.
that's
Let's
ex-
speak to that.
that's exactly how I say it. Yeah. Actually,
Wow.
I like to do the juxtaposition. Don't try to control the dog, control yourself.
Yeah.
It's because the first thing people do is try to control the dog. Why? Because they don't understand the dog. So, of course, we want everything on earth to be exactly like us, think like us, have the same capabilities, understanding, etc., so that we understand it in that way. Otherwise, we're afraid of it. And we don't understand a lot. And so that's the whole point of the institute, is to get to understand at least yourself.
Mm, yeah.
And when you do step outside of yourself, and you start actually realizing what an intelligent, sentient being a dog is, and it has its own answers, and guess what? They're just as valid as ours. So learn to communicate. If you can pre-communicate, okay. So how do we? So if I were walking next to you, and I wanted to turn down this street, and I just grab you by the hair or the back of your neck and yank you this way. That's what we do to dogs.
Yeah.
Didn't tell you anything. I didn't tell you we're going to turn. I didn't say, hey, how don't we go this way? People don't behave that way to each other, but they do to dogs. So it literally takes, and this is where, I try to teach people to use hand signals because hands are unique. And I'm not going to go into the extreme depth on that. We would be here for hours, just me explaining what hand signals are, why we use hands the way we do, and some of the nuances of those things. I will tell you that with Bosch and I, we're constantly communicating. He communicates in his way, I communicate in mine. Um, but dogs are 10 to 11 times. This is my study, it's other scientific studies as well. Dogs are 10 to 11 times more willing, capable, and able to look at your body, hands, and everything else than ever listen to your monkey chatter. So why not use what they're looking for in the first place and be accurate with it? So I try to teach at least crude, rudimentary uh, communications with hands, precursor to asking a dog, what I call asking a dog to jump up on something. You actually move your hand up, tap, tap, tap. Now the dog understands, okay, the motion and what you're asking me to do on top of. Um, so those things are let's go this direction or stop or all these other little hand signals that are basic. I'll put it that way, extreme basics. This writing ABC, and that's about it. Not even DEF. So in their capability of understanding, it's pre-communicating what we're about to do together, just like a human would do with another human, saying, "Hey, would you like to go here? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, that's an agreement. You
Yeah.
had a conversation. I am always having a conversation with a dog because I respect and trust them, and they trust me because I pre-communicate before I do something, or I ask them to do something instead of just yanking them over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all about pre-communication. That's the key. And that's why dogs behave the way they do with me. That's why in 5 minutes I've got the worst dog in the world being my buddy because
Yeah.
I try to communicate.
In a way that's meaningful
Yeah,
to
to
the dog.
them,
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I will say, and I don't know if you recall, because I'm sure you get tons and tons and tons of us that are like sending you messages, and and you were so kind when I had wasn't my dog, wasn't even a foster dog. It was Lexi that was dumped off by the Humane Society that I
Mm,
agreed to like help them out with, but then they just
mm,
kind of forgot about her, and she became like a permanent fixture in the facility. And I always had all these different trainers coming to the facility all the time, and everyone's worked with her under the sun. And but she was always there. And I called you up because she just wasn't making progress, like we just weren't getting anywhere. And one of the things that you had said to me was that I have to be very aware of how Lexi is influencing my behavior,
mm,
right? So I wanted to say, this other line that you actually said last night at your class:
mm,
either you influence the dog or the dog influences you. And I kind of took that to heart, and I put a big sign on her
mm,
suite that said, "Do not let Lexi's behavior influence your behavior." And I had to, like, it was a gut check because I
uh,
realized that
mm,
because of the habitualness of my mind,
mm.
I started before I even came in the building, already anticipating all the banana bean stuff she was going to do. And I was probably already like a level 8 frustration. And I hadn't even walked in the room
Yeah,
yet. And it wasn't until like you had mentioned that to me that I was like, I had to like, I got to check myself all the way back here and go, wow, I'm coming in at an 8. Like I'm
mm,
already frustrated. I'm not even giving you a chance.
there you
And
go.
I'm coming in frustrated. So you're meet me where I'm at. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Meet me
you
where I'm
you
at.
are. She's just corroborating what you're telling her.
Yeah. He was like, that's how we're
Yeah,
feeling today. good, let's do
Yeah.
this then. And I
Yeah,
was like,
exactly.
you're making me
I'll meet you there. Yeah.
right. So
I
that
I I don't I vaguely remember anything about Lexi. I don't remember that. Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I
I've
think it
talked
was
to
a
a couple
late
of people.
I think it was a late night phone call because I had sent you a message and you're like, let's get on the phone. That's the beautiful thing about
Yeah.
Nelson. Nelson gives so much of his time to all of us trainers who are like, Nelson. But yeah, you got on the phone with me, and I was showing, I was doing a call. I actually showed because I was talking about you again and about your classes and whatnot. Because I was talking about people joining your classes, and I said it's like the university level of dog stuff. And I showed the binder that you gave us for course two. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this is what we walked into. Most training seminars you go to, they'll give you like a little do a tag with some notes.
Yeah.
And but I walked into that and walked out with that. Anyway, I was going through my notes and I came across the notes that I wrote that night when I was on the phone with you about Lexi.
Hmm.
Because I mean, all of the dogs, have shaped everything in our lives. And I
Yes.
have this big catalog of notes of that. But so like this idea of influence, let's kind of nail that down a little bit because I want to talk a little bit
Okay.
more about that. Like how would you describe it to somebody to be like what is influence, because it's not something tangible where you can be like, I got to stop that, like.
Right. So therein lies the conundrum and the reason for, about 40 different courses is to get people to understand themselves.
Yeah.
Seriously, to a high level and understand dogs at the same time. And and let me put it this way. So dogs' capabilities of senses are different than ours. We are Our brains literally are set for our eyes. We structure the way we think, how we experience the environment through our eyes. So we are eye dominant and then hand subdominant. We see, and even our every every language, human language that I have studied, has words that use some form of vision or a noun, an adverb, or whatever else involving vision as a descriptor for something besides vision. You see?
Right.
Okay. Well, look at this. Now look here. Everything we do is about our vision because our brain is literally sequenced for how we experience the environment, the universe, through our eyes.
Right.
And then we manipulate it with our weird monkey paws. Okay. Dogs are nose dominant and mouth subdominant. We're different. We think differently. We literally think differently. The sequential aspect of the dog's brain, up to a quarter of their brain is used for detecting, giving value to, and identifying scent.
Mm.
We don't even use a quarter of our brain.
At all.
We use approximately 10% of the capacity of our brain in our entire lifetime.
Oh.
So, yeah, most people. But dogs they have their senses are entirely different than ours. They have similar senses. Their vision is different than ours. It is not less, it's actually more because of the light range that they are able to see. So what they see you like, they actually see kind of in your body. So it may have been your class. I don't even remember. It's been so long ago when we brought dogs in that first evening. We got the dogs, we did stuff, and then we came over to the center to orient everybody and say, okay, here's where we're meeting in the morning, and this is our place. And I think I went and sat down, and this dog, husky, that didn't even know me, and we had jackets on because it was a little cool. went and sat down. This dog was maybe 20 feet away and had to make its way around, and it came up to me and pushed its nose across my jacket and sniffed right where I had an ulcer at the time. So it saw through the clothing that there was something there, a hole in me in some way, different. It saw that. And then it sniffed to corroborate, yes, that's what I saw. So smelling anything, a cell of cancer or an unusual amount of it, because we have cancer cells in us all the time, that's child's play for a dog. Their universe is about scent detection, and that's how they accommodate the universe itself, all the environments that they live in. It's not just your sweat and how you smell that way. It's literally every breath you breathe out, that you are breathing out the neurotransmitters and hormones that are in your body and brain for that moment that create your thought. Because in neurobiology, you study and you look at it and you say, okay, well, the synaptic gap between each one of the dendrites and neurons that fire a signal across. How does that fire that signal to make that thought to that particular line of neurons through the brain here to have that thought? It's because of the neurotransmitters and hormones that fill that gap, that soup of inhibitors, modulators, et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
Hold up.
That,
You're
yeah.
saying you're saying dogs can smell my thoughts.
Yes, because they have the exact same neurotransmitters and hormones. So they know how you feel and what you're thinking because they smell it in themselves too. So when you walk in with a presupposition of upset or anything else, and that first breath out, that dog's picking up all of that and knows how you feel. That's why I'm happy for dogs. I'm happy to see them. I love working with them. I trust them.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
that's the other thing you said to me is you have to like the dog that bit you.
yeah,
And I was like, that's hard.
yeah. But you have to understand why they bit you.
I because I messed up and I don't understand what they're talking about.
Well, it can be their history of things. I mean, most of the dogs that I got, well, I'd say 40% were super aggressive dogs that had multiple bites on humans. Probably shouldn't have been alive, but I got to work with them, and there was only one dog that ever bit me twice. First time was my fault. The second time, we had a conversation. When
Yeah.
the conversation was very silent, didn't involve hitting him, didn't involve yelling at him, it was a stare down, and the waves of different emotions and thoughts going through his brain, I could see for those 10 seconds over his face until he finally goes, how do I get out of this? And that's what I wanted was to see how the change of thought and behavior. And I turned and walked away. And by 5 steps, he was right next to me, pushing his head into my leg, and I scratched him on top of the head. I never had another problem with him. He was a very intelligent animal.
So, and I think I alluded to this in the ICP talk when I specifically said, how do us mere mortals do do that? Because you can't fake it then, right? You can't
No, you
really
can't.
make it.
No.
So if I
Because you are incongruent, and incongruency is distrustful.
right. So
Makes sense?
how do it does, but how do I overcome that? If I have a legitimate fear,
Yeah,
or let's say a dog owners that their dog has bit them and now they're afraid of that
of
dog.
course. Yeah,
How do we get a human to get to a point where they're able
that's
to connect?
that's why they need professional help from a professional that can understand what they're going through. First of all, we're humans too. Well, at least I'm half human, and
We haven't proven that yet though. We just think he's all
sorry.
dog. We don't know about the human part.
Uh, you fear what you don't understand. So our obligation is to teach the people about what a dog is. And that's why I teach trainers what I teach, the level and the depth, and eventually they understand that I don't expect them to teach their clients, you know, 8, 9, 10 years of courses, but they have that information so that they can reach that person with what they need. That's the point.
Right,
So
right, right,
I,
right.
it's not just information, it's the knowledge and the skill, the art form of taking real science, not cherry picked stuff, and understanding. That's why I say, a lot of trainers are very good at training a dog. They don't know what a dog is.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's the difference. And unfortunately, I will say there are more behavior cases out there than ever before. Not just in numbers, but in percentage. And why? Because and here's the thing: I understand about spay neuter and all that stuff, and we don't want more dogs, but that's not the problem. The problem is not accidental litters. The problem is puppy mills because there's a demand. And so what we're doing is we're taking the good genetics out of the gene pool and having puppy mill dogs.
Yeah,
So we're actually destroying dogs by that policy.
yeah.
There's got to be a different answer. And so we have more behavior cases, and people want to help dogs. They love dogs. They want to save them, but we're not saving dogs by spay neuter and then getting bad dogs in shelters. And by bad, I don't mean bad dogs. I mean genetically not quite right.
Hmm.
And also expecting every dog to be the same thing. You know,
That's
an Ovcharka is not a King Charles Cavalier.
true.
And if you guys don't know what an Ovcharka is, look it up. Yeah, they kill bears, wolves, humans, anything that comes into that territory. That's what they were made for. And there are hundreds of years of the most massive. Uh, they make their own decision, and once they're 4 months old, they're not a puppy anymore. They're a dangerous animal, and people are importing them, breeding them here in the United States. And I've worked with several, and I'd rather work with a rabid wolf because a 250-pound dog is not your buddy.
No, no.
So
And if you don't want to work with them, I don't even want
I don't want to see them in this country. They have their place, and it's not here. It's in the Caucasus Mountains. Keeping their sheep flock and their territory safe. That's all they're there for. That's it. That's their job.
to.
So
Yeah.
not all dogs are the same, guys.
No, they're not. They're not. That is for sure. Now, I have two more things.
Okay.
We've already alluded to this as I think, a core concept. But I wanted to bring it up again. The classic don't teach a dog, reach a dog um, concept. And I think for me, as someone back in 2016, when I first saw you, um, I think it was this concept that really, really spoke to me because if I can be honest, I had been to numerous seminars by this time, um, and I had I had been kind of pushed into dog training as someone that like people came up to me and said you should be a dog trainer, and I was like, really? Why was that? And so I was like, I guess I'll be a dog trainer. So I started studying and all of that stuff, and I'd gone to seminars and seminars and seminars, and I didn't like them.
Hmm.
Like I just I didn't like them. And nothing against and some incredible trainers. Don't get me wrong. I've
I
sat and listened
understand.
to
Yeah.
incredible trainers, but I would bring my dogs and I've told this story before, but I brought one of my dogs and I we were going through the exercises and it was the typical threshold exercise where you're supposed to come up to the threshold and the dog is supposed to stop and then you put them in a sit. And I had my beautiful dog beside me and she's on a slip leash because she didn't really need a leash, but we had to have them on a leash. And she walks up beside me and I stop and she stops because she was always slightly behind me. And the
Hmm.
trainer said to me, put her in a sit. And I was like, why?
Ooh,
Oh my God, was I ever hated for the next 6 days of that course? Um, I got the because we said so.
yeah,
Like, and I was like,
because they don't have
okay,
an answer.
because and I was like, listen, I get like for some dogs that are pushing through and whatnot, but clearly this dog isn't. And if I were
Yeah,
to like reef up on her neck right now to tell her to sit, that would really be a betrayal. And I was shunned from that thing. The trainers wouldn't talk to me at the
good.
at the end of it. Well, you have to consider too, though, I was like this, like, young, trying to figure out my way in the training industry.
Yeah.
And I went to the one-on-one, and the guy told me I was a dog hoarder and I probably shouldn't be training dogs. And I spent a boatload of money on that. And I came home crying and I was like, "Whoa," like he called me a dog hoarder because I asked why. Why
Yeah.
sit? Why does she have to? Why does her position matter?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and
Good.
the rest of the whole thing, if I would walk up, he'd be like, "You're just gonna do what you want to do anyway. You might as well go over there." And I was like, "All right, over there." But so I had gone through like numerous ones,
Mm,
and I got to yours, and I think at this point I was like, if this doesn't work for me, I'm done. Like I'm through.
mm.
I can't do this, right?
Wow.
And I sat, and like within the first, hour of your talk, I was like, here I am. Like,
Mm,
here I am. Because I know Nelson's not going to kick me out and tell me if I, you know,
no.
Nelson's not going to kick me out of this. And so this is what started this journey. So this
Mm,
idea of it gave me permission to do what I was doing and not have to train the dog, which is what I wasn't training the dog. And I felt like an
mm,
imposter. I
mm.
had really good dogs. That's my tagline. I had 19 just good dogs. I didn't train a one of them. I didn't train one of them,
But you did.
but I did.
Yeah.
But I was told I didn't. And so I felt like I was an imposter and that everybody belittled me. First of all, they said, well, you had easy dogs. Okay, well, at some point in time, it's
Yeah.
not luck,
Yeah. No.
right?
No.
So
Yeah.
this
Good
I
luck finding 19 easy dogs in a
right,
row. Good luck.
right. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I must be doing something right.
Yeah.
So it really, like, when I say this, and I'm not saying this to embarrass you or whatnot, but I don't think, like, I drove away from that 3 day completely feeling validated and starting to
Mm,
be like, there is something I can do. I still struggled. I'm not gonna lie, I still struggled because I would come back from that and be like, I want to teach this. And that wasn't what people were looking for,
mm.
right? People want obedience. But I've been told in order
Right.
to fix this problem, dog has to be on place and dog has to do this and dog has to do that. So I went back, I lost my way again. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll teach people place, and I guess I'll teach, because I can teach a dog. I know how to teach
Yeah.
dogs.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but then I was like, but it's not what I'm doing. So
Yeah.
how can I finally, like, how can I show people what I'm doing
Hmm.
without that? And then I went to your 9 day, and I came back from that, and I wrote I started doing relationship remedy was the name of my program.
Mm.
And I started like talking about all, like, what do I do in the day with my dogs? How do I go out with my dogs? What am I
Yeah.
doing with my dogs? And it took a while, but now I have this podcast, I have this audience, and people are like, I want to do what you're doing. And I'm like,
That's great.
there it is.
That's great.
No,
That really
there
is.
there it is. So it really, like, when I say, you, like, I don't know what would have happened, honestly, if I never came across you and had this opportunity to learn and to continue to learn from you. And with that, that looks like a great place to hit pause. Listen, Nelson has way more to share with us coming up in the next episode, part 2, where you will learn more on how to build an incredible relationship with your dog, how to be the person that your dog needs you to be, and how to be the person that really knows what a dog is. All of that coming up in part 2. If you would like to learn more about Nelson, all that information will be in the show notes. Plus, next episode, we're going to be sharing how you can join one of Nelson's classes. All that coming up. Can't wait to see you there. As always, my friend, get out there today and be the person that your dog thinks you are, because your dog thinks that you're amazing. And so do I. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Oh, and one more thing. This podcast is meant for entertainment and education purposes only, and it's not meant to replace hands-on professional training. If you're really struggling with your dog, please reach out to a professional in your area. All right, I think that's it. Bye for now.